Alright, so welcome to this little video about a few words about this Cache-McGrath power supply. As many of you have been following some of my videos now, how I made my supply system from scratch using all these materials that they showed in the Blueprint Week. But I wanted to say a few things about the reasons why I find it interesting and why I did it, because basically I ran into it only a couple of days after the what is it called, the ambassadors meeting. So I didn't know much about the Cache Foundation at all. I only watched the video years ago and didn't really pay much attention to. And then I ran into it and I thought, well, this is really interesting. And I was listening to Mr. Cache speak about some of this stuff, and it was fascinating. I mean, it was fascinating to see how much knowledge he had about a lot of these subjects, connecting all the way up to really consciousness. Because I come from the realm of consciousness, basically, in the sense that everybody does. But I mean, I had an awakening like Eckhart Tolle had when I was 20 years old. I was frustrated and depressed and about life. I didn't feel like I belonged on this planet, and everybody wanted me to become, you know, something, get a job, make money, and live the lives I saw people living, the lives that were people living. I saw that the schooling system wasn't right, and the world wasn't right. They were destroying the planet, and something was really, really wrong. So, and I knew that when I was a little boy. So by 20, I was frustrated. I was almost depressed. I couldn't sleep for more than a couple of hours a night. And then I, one night, had this awakening, whatever you want to call it, mystical experience. Suddenly, I was thrusted into the mind, not the mind, out of the mind, and I found myself completely inside this universal energy, completely one with everything. I knew intrinsically, inherently, completely, that everything around me was part of me, and I found myself baffled by this thing where I felt completely one and at peace and in harmony. And I also knew that nothing was out of control. I have always been here, but I didn't know it. Somehow my conscious thinking mind had pulled me out of my being, pulled me out of my presence, pulled me out of the awareness of being in the moment, and suddenly I found myself in this place where I saw Jesus. You know, I've always been this, but I somehow didn't know. So then I went into the spiritual, you know, realm, and I found a couple of books by Barry Long, which was my first master, or whatever you want to call it, a teacher. And he showed me that basically the thinking mind is an aberration. It's a tool. It's a tool that we've created, and now most people live in it almost 24 hours a day, or at least during the waking hours in the conscious mind. They live by the thinking process, and they believe it's them. This is the worst part. They believe that the thinking in their head, it's not even really in your head, but let's say for a second, the voices in your head is you. And I realized that wasn't me. So all of these discoveries that I've made after that, and listened to many masters that speak, including Mooji and Rupert Spira and Adyashanti and many more, Sadhguru, and many of these people who have realized their true being, Eckhart Tolle. And so that's the place that I've been for the last, you know, 2 decades, basically, of my life. And I didn't focus much on anything else. But this stuff that Cache talks about touches on it. It's a few steps down, but it touches on it. It comes up to the level of awareness and consciousness where everything is one. And one of the things that I want to say about this is that anybody in this world, any scientist or anybody that claims anything, if they are slightly conscious and slightly intelligent, will know that you don't know anything. I mean, I know I'm speaking to this camera, and I know I'm sitting here talking, but who am I, and what is talking, and how is the talking working? How my vocal cords work? How the hell does this body sit here? How does everything work? Nobody has a bloody clue, and that's the fact. And if you arrogantly think that you have any idea about life like that, then you're one of those scientists or intellectuals that has thought that they know anything. And of course you could say, we know things, relatively so you do. But factually, you don't. When it comes to the nitty-gritty, we don't know a thing. A planet swirling around a sun, whatever the sun might be, in space that's as vast as nobody can imagine. And then on that planet there's an atmosphere, a stratosphere, there's all kinds of elements, and then suddenly you get all these creatures walking around with my blood and my bones and my hairs, and you know, it is incredible. It is totally, fascinatingly, amazingly incredible. And nobody can explain that. And that is the most important part. Now, Mr. Keshe and many others try to explain it. I was listening to some of Dan Winter's work as well, which is, you know, he definitely is a phenomenally interesting guy when it comes to trying to figure out the structures by which consciousness comes into existence. Because that's finally what we're talking about. We're talking about, whatever you want to call it, consciousness, plasma, or whatever you want to call it, the sun, creation, universal energy, sacred geometry, you know, call it what you wish. They're just names to try to describe this mysterious, incredibly fascinating, inexplicable thing called life. Here, hologram, whatever you want to call it, life, right? Consciousness. I think the consciousness is the best word. And it is the awareness that is aware of all of it, right? That's the most important part when it comes to the realm of knowing, being. Not knowing, but being. So, what is so fascinating about this consciousness or plasma or anything is that it has a certain structure of making and coming into existence. Because it's literally the nothing appearing as the everything. It's literally the void, the nothing, the absolute emptiness of the universe that contains everything that's possible. And when something, any object, including my body, my hands, the camera, or anything else, the copper coils, come into existence, that is a phenomenal, an objective reality. It's a phenomenon, it's an appearance in consciousness. And Mr. Keshe goes into details in explaining this phenomenality, this objectivity of existence, the things versus the no things, how they come out of nothing. And this is a fascinating matter because we don't know a damn thing about this. Because if I plant 10 buckets of the same soil, which I grab from somewhere, doesn't matter where, and I plant 20 different trees in it, or plants in it, let's say vegetables, or edible plants. Let's say I plant one moringa tree, and I plant an aloe vera, or I plant a pepper, or a tomato. All of these plants will contain different materials, like different vitamins and minerals, and amino acids, and proteins, and healing compounds, all these things, antioxidants and everything. There is nobody in this entire world at this moment that can explain how a homogeneous seed, a seed which is just this complete pulpy substance, suddenly turns into a root and leaves coming out and then goes into the soil, and then with a bit of water and the sun, of course, and some oxygen and things and CO2, it turns into things that weren't there. You can't explain that. Nobody can explain that. And the pepper tree, there's a different amount of these minerals and vitamins, and another one, and then another one, and another one. All these 10 plants planted in the same bucket of soil, 10 different buckets, but the same soil, and then all of these begin dipped in the same water, placed in the same position under the sun, come out with completely something else. This can't be explained except to say it's a miracle. Or you could say this is alchemy. This is where plasmatic energy or consciousness turns something, or turns nothing into something. Converts out of something that's not there before into something that's suddenly there. This is a wonder, a mystery, and if you'd like to explain it, like Mr. Keshe tries to, and does a pretty good job at it, you know, you can try to do it, but finally in the mental realm you won't get at. You won't manage. You'll just cause yourself and other people suffering. Because this is the mystery, and the mystery will never be able to be explained completely. But this is the reason why I like this plasmatic stuff so much. The reason is because when I look at an ant, and not a human being on this planet can build an ant, or when I look at anything else, a bird, I see a mystery. I see a wonder. I see a brilliant, intelligent manifestation of consciousness that nobody can explain. And we humans right now can't do any of that stuff. In fact, at this moment, we humans make everything. We don't grow anything. We make everything. We put these cameras together. We put these coils together. We put these keyboards together. We put cars together by stealing materials from the earth, by blowing up and mining things and getting ore out, melting it down, bashing, smashing, hammering, screwing, smelting, squeezing things together. We force everything. We use force. We don't use power. We use force. So nature doesn't do that. the plants, when they grow their fruit, and they just come out of nothing. There's a little flower, it gets pollinated, it gets a little tiny little ball, and then this ball over a couple of weeks becomes an orange. It grows. It doesn't get made. Of course you can say, well, the roots mix all these things and stuff, you know, photosynthesis. Well, that's all great, fantastic intellectual stuff. The fact is, you look at space, there's a little ball, and 2 weeks later there's an orange, or whatever, 2 months later there's an orange. It's a mystery. And you can do the same for bees or ants. They make larvae, and they say they're eggs, and then the eggs just turn into larvae, and the larvae turn into, and suddenly this bee comes out flying away, like the caterpillar turns into a butterfly. It's a mystery. It's grown. It comes out of nothing and it becomes something. It doesn't get made by sticking things together and gluing things together and screwing things together. And humans at this time, just about 99% make everything and don't grow anything. We don't grow our houses, we don't grow our cars, we don't grow our furniture or our clothes. We steal it from the plasmatic consciousness that is able to grow it. We go out and steal from the plants, steal from the bees, steal from the trees, and then chop it, cut it, mill it, and then turn it into something. Because we only understand this simplistic matter state of making things by stealing it from what is already created by the Creator, or whatever you want to call it, consciousness, life, the earth, Mother Nature, Gaia, call it what you wish. But we steal from her and then melt it and make it into things. And that's an outdated concept if we want to survive on this planet. It's a definitely outdated concept. I don't know how many more years this planet has, or at least we have on this planet, but we keep destroying it over and over apparently. And it is because we don't understand that this mental realm we live in, this thinking mind, is just a tool who has become our tyrant. Try to figure everything out with the mind, you will suffer, you will cause mayhem, you'll cause war, you'll cause all kinds of troubles. The mind is the biggest problem. And as long as we don't get out of this structure where we think we are the thinking mind and that the thinking mind is God, we listen to our own voice in our head like it's God, and to the voices of other people's like they're gods, we're screwed. We're screwed. We're literally screwed. We are the being inside. And it's not even inside, it's everywhere. We are here, now, in this moment, the completeness of life itself. We are the universe. In separated forms, in different shapes, but we are the universe itself. And the thinking mind is also a creation of the universe. But at this time, it's claimed dominion over almost everybody on Earth. And as long as we don't get out of that structure, we have trouble. We're going to destroy this planet. We're going to keep doing all this mayhem to each other because we see separation where there is none. Life is one. We are the universe. And whether you want to call that consciousness or plasma manifestations or whatever you want, it's great, you know. I don't care what you call it. Names were made by the mind, by this naming process, like pointing to something. This thing is not a cup. It's this thing. It's not water in there. It's what I'm seeing. You know, water is a word. You can't put things into words and claim that you understand anything. We don't know a thing. But what we do know is that this intelligent universe, this incredible majesty of life, is fascinating. And so, if I can contribute in some way to even this free energy device and then maybe this free everything device coming through plasma, I sure hope it works. And I understand that everything that we see is created out of nothing. And so it's definitely a possibility that this whole plasma thing is real. But it remains to be proven that even the energy system works. And but we'll see. I hope you guys enjoyed a little bit of that video. I'll probably make a few more about this, especially if you like it. And we'll see, I'll hear what the comments are. And if you do, I'll just keep talking about a couple of these subjects which are dear to me, because life is dear to me. This universe is fantastically dear to me. All right, guys, take care.